Document. Part 1 of the HFY Sci-Fi Story. The spaceship descended slowly through the thick, swirling clouds of Zorothea. Its sleek metallic surface gleamed faintly under the light of a distant sun that barely pierced the dense atmosphere. Inside, Captain Ryan Carter stood at the helm, his hands gripping the edge of the control panel as he watched the alien world grow larger on the view screen. His face was calm, but there was a tension in his jaw that betrayed his unease. Beside him, Dr. Laura Bennett leaned forward slightly, her sharp eyes scanning the terrain below with professional curiosity. This was humanity's first contact with an intelligent alien species. For years, Earth had been sending out signals into the vastness of space, hoping for a response. And finally, after decades of silence, the Valith had answered. Their message had been simple, yet profound. We wish to know you. It was a phrase that carried both hope and uncertainty. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, but now that it was here, no one could quite shake the feeling that something about it wasn't entirely right. Ryan glanced over at Laura. She was adjusting her glasses absent-mindedly, a habit she always fell into when deep in thought. Her dark hair was pulled back into a tight bun, and her lab coat hung neatly over her shoulders, despite the long journey. "What do you think?" he asked quietly, breaking the silence that had settled. Over the bridge, Laura turned to look at him, her expression unreadable. "I think we're stepping into uncharted territory," she replied. "Everything we've learned about them so far suggests they're peaceful, but ... double quotes." She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "There's something off. They seem to..." Eager Ryan nodded. He had noticed it too. The Valith had welcomed humanity with open arms, whatever passed 4 arms in their physiology. Their transmissions were filled with warmth and reassurance, almost as if they were trying too hard to appear non-threatening. It made Ryan uneasy, though he couldn't put his finger on why. Maybe it was just nerves. After all, this was the most important mission of his career, and failure wasn't an option. Behind them, Lieutenant Kevin Hayes sat at his station, running final checks on the ship's systems. He was younger than the others, with a mop of unruly blonde hair and a cocky grin that never seemed to fade. But even he looked serious today, his usual bravado tempered by the weight of what they were about to do. "All systems are green, Captain," he reported without looking up. "We're good to go." "Good," Ryan said, straightening up. "Let's make sure we don't screw this up." The ship touched down gently on a wide, flat plain, surrounded by towering crystalline structures that shimmered like rainbows under the dim sunlight. These were the Valith city's strange, otherworldly constructs that defied human understanding. They glowed faintly, pulsing with an inner light that gave the impression of life rather than mere architecture. As the landing ramp extended, Ryan took a deep breath and stepped forward, leading the delegation out onto the alien soil. Waiting for them was a group of Valith. They were tall and slender, with translucent skin that shifted colors, depending on their emotions. Their faces were smooth and featureless, except for 2 large, glowing orbs where eyes might have been. They moved gracefully, almost floating above the ground, and their presence radiated a sense of calm that was both comforting and unnerving. One of them stepped forward, raising a delicate limb in what appeared to be a gesture of greeting. Its voice resonated in their minds, rather than their ears, a soft, melodic hum that conveyed meaning without words. "Welcome, travelers from Earth," it said. "We are honored by your presence." Ryan bowed slightly, mimicking the gesture he had practiced during training. "Thank you for receiving us," he replied. "We come in peace, seeking friendship and understanding." The Valith tilted its head, studying him intently. "Your kind has intrigued us for many cycles," it said. "You are creators, builders, dreamers. Yet you also carry within you the capacity for great destruction. Tell us, humans, are you truly as peaceful as you claim?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Ryan exchanged a quick glance with Laura, who gave him a subtle nod. We strive to be, he answered honestly. But like any species, we are flawed. Our history is marked by conflict, yes, but also by growth and learning. We hope to leave those darker days behind us. The Valith seemed satisfied with this answer. For now, it gestured for them to follow, leading the way toward one of the crystalline towers. As they walked, Ryan couldn't help but marvel at the strangeness of it all. The air smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with ozone, and the ground beneath their feet felt soft, almost spongy. Strange plants swayed gently in the breeze, their colors shifting constantly like living prisms. Everything about this place was beautiful and alien. Inside the tower, the walls shimmered with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as they passed. The Valith led them to a large chamber, where more of its kind awaited. They formed a loose circle around the humans, their glowing eyes fixed on them with an intensity that made Ryan feel like a specimen under a microscope. This is our council, the lead Valith explained. They will guide our discussions. Please, share your thoughts freely. For the next several hours, the humans and Valith engaged in careful dialogue. Laura presented data on Earth's ecosystems, culture, and technological advancements, while the Valith shared glimpses of their own society, a highly advanced civilization built on principles of harmony and cooperation. On the surface, everything seemed to be going well. The Valith were attentive and respectful, asking thoughtful questions and offering insightful comments. But beneath the veneer of politeness, tensions simmered. Kevin noticed at first a slight hesitation in the Valith's responses, a flicker of unease in their shifting skin. He leaned closer to Ryan and whispered, "Something's not adding up, Captain. They're hiding something." Ryan nodded imperceptibly, having sensed the same thing. He didn't say anything though, not yet. For now, they needed to keep playing the part of eager diplomats, even if every instinct told them to tread carefully. As the meeting drew to a close, the lead Valith approached Ryan once more. "Your arrival brings us great hope," it said, "but also great uncertainty. We must learn more about each other before we can truly trust. Will you stay and continue these talks?" Ryan hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Of course," he said. "That's why we're here." The Valith smiled, or at least it seemed to. Its skin glowed brighter for a moment, and Ryan couldn't tell whether it was a sign of approval or something else entirely. Either way, he knew one thing for certain. This mission was far from over, and the real challenges were only just beginning. As the humans followed their hosts deeper into the crystalline city, none of them could shake the feeling that they were being watched not just by the Valith, but by something else entirely. Something hidden in the shadows of this strange, beautiful world. Document. Part 2 of the HFY Sci-Fi story. The next morning on Zorathia began with a strange kind of calm. The air outside the human delegation's quarters shimmered faintly, as though alive with energy. Inside, Captain Ryan Carter sat at a small table reviewing notes from the previous day's discussions. His brow was furrowed in concentration, his pen moving steadily across the paper as he jotted down key points and unanswered questions. Across from him, Dr. Laura Bennett sipped her tea, her eyes scanning through data files on her tablet. "Lieutenant." Kevin Hayes burst into the room without knocking, his usual swagger replaced by a look of urgency. "Captain," he said, his voice low but sharp. "We've got a problem." Ryan looked up, his expression unreadable. "What is it?" "It's about last night," Kevin continued, pulling up a chair. "I went for a walk after the meeting to clear my head, and I saw something weird near the edge of their city, one of those crystalline towers. It wasn't glowing like the others. It was dark, completely dead." Laura set her cup down, frowning. "That doesn't sound right. Their structures are supposed to emit light all the time, aren't they?" "Exactly," Kevin replied. "And that's not even the worst part. When I got closer, I heard At least, I think they were voices." They sounded ... different. Not like the Valith we've been talking to. Ryan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Did you see anyone? No, sir. But I swear, someone or something was watching me. I felt it. Kevin hesitated before adding, I think we're missing something big here. Maybe the Valith aren't telling us everything. For a moment, no one spoke. The weight of Kevin's words hung heavy in the air. Ryan knew better than to dismiss them outright. Despite the Valith's seemingly welcoming demeanor, there had been subtle hints of hesitation here, an evasive answer there that suggested they weren't being entirely truthful. We need to be careful, Ryan said finally. But we can't jump to conclusions either. If we accuse them of hiding something without proof, we risk ruining everything we've worked for so far. Laura nodded slowly. Agreed. Still, Kevin's observation raises valid concerns. We should try to investigate further, while maintaining our diplomatic stance. Perhaps we can ask more pointed questions during today's session. Ryan glanced at Kevin. In the meantime, keep your eyes open. Report anything unusual directly to me, and whatever you do, don't go wandering off alone again. Yes, sir, Kevin replied, standing up. He gave a quick salute before leaving the room. Later that afternoon, the humans returned to the council chamber for another round of discussions. The Valith greeted them warmly, their glowing forms radiating what appeared to be genuine enthusiasm. As the meeting progressed, Laura took the lead, presenting detailed information about Earth's history and technological advancements. She spoke confidently, her tone measured and professional. But she couldn't help noticing how some of the Valith seemed distracted. Their colors flickered more frequently than usual, a sign of unease or discomfort. When the floor opened for questions, one of the Valith council members tilted its head curiously. Your species has achieved remarkable feats despite frequent conflicts among yourselves, it said. How do you reconcile such contradictions? Laura hesitated briefly before responding. Conflict is part of growth, she explained. Through struggle, we learn to adapt and improve. Over time, humanity has developed systems to reduce violence and promote cooperation. The Valith's response was slow, almost contemplative. Adaptation is indeed valuable. Yet we wonder, is conflict truly necessary for progress? Or does it hinder your potential? Before Laura could answer, Lieutenant Kevin interjected. With respect, he began, his tone polite but firm. Our history shows that conflict often arises from misunderstandings or competition for resources. That's why diplomacy is so important to prevent unnecessary clashes. The Valith turned its gaze toward Kevin, its orbs brightening slightly. A wise perspective, it hummed. Yet we must ask, are humans always capable of resolving disputes peacefully? Kevin met its gaze unflinchingly. Not always, he admitted. But we're learning. Every generation strives to do better than the last. The exchange seemed to satisfy the Valith for now, but Ryan noticed a shift in the atmosphere. The aliens' earlier warmth had cooled slightly, replaced by a guarded curiosity. It was as if they were reassessing their initial impressions of humanity. After the meeting ended, Ryan pulled Laura aside. What did you make of that? He asked quietly. I'm not sure, she replied, folding her arms. They seem genuinely interested in understanding us, but there's an underlying tension, like they're waiting for us to slip up. Ryan nodded grimly. Same here. Let's hope Kevin's instincts are wrong this time. Unbeknownst to them, Kevin had decided to act on his suspicions under the cover of darkness. He slipped out of the delegation's quarters and made his way toward the mysterious tower he'd spotted the previous night. The streets of the Valith city were eerily quiet, the usual hum of activity replaced by an unsettling stillness. Even the crystalline structures around him seemed dimmer, their glow muted compared to earlier. As Kevin approached the darkened tower, he slowed his pace, his boots making soft crunching sounds against the spongy ground. His heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to stay focused. Closer inspection revealed that the structure wasn't just unlidded, was damaged. Cracks marred its surface, and shards of crystal-like material lay scattered at its base. Whatever had happened here, it hadn't occurred naturally. Suddenly, a noise caught his attention, a faint scraping sound coming from inside the tower. Kevin froze, his hand instinctively reaching for the weapon holstered at his side. Peering cautiously through the entrance, he saw movement in the shadows. Two figures emerged, their forms unmistakably Valith but unlike any he'd seen before. Their skin was dull and cracked, their glowing orbs flickering erratically. They moved stiffly, as if struggling against some unseen force. One of them turned its head sharply, spotting Kevin. Its orb flared brightly, and it let out a low, guttural hum that sent chills down his spine. Without thinking, Kevin raised his weapon and fired a warning shot. The bolt of energy struck the ground near the creature's feet, causing them to recoil momentarily. "Stay back," he shouted, his voice echoing in the empty space. But the creatures didn't retreat. Instead, they advanced, their movements jerky, yet determined. Panic surged through Kevin as he realized they weren't afraid. If anything, they seemed angry or maybe desperate. Backing away slowly, Kevin kept his weapon trained on them. Just as he reached the doorway, a third figure appeared behind him, blocking his escape. This one was larger, its form towering over him. Its skin glowed faintly, pulsing with an ominous red hue. "You shouldn't be here," it rumbled, its voice deep and resonant. Unlike the melodic tones of the other Valith, this one's speech carried a menacing edge. Kevin swallowed hard, his mind racing. "Who are you?" he demanded. "What is this place?" The creature didn't answer. Instead, it lunged forward, forcing Kevin to dive out of the way. Rolling to his feet, he fired another shot, this time aiming directly at the creature. The bolt struck it squarely in the chest, sending it stumbling backward. But it recovered quickly, its red glow intensifying with rage. Realizing he was outnumbered, Kevin turned and ran, dodging debris and narrowly avoiding the creature's grasping limbs. He didn't stop until he reached the safety of the delegation's quarters, where Ryan and Laura were waiting anxiously. "What happened?" Ryan asked, his voice sharp with concern. Kevin took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "There's trouble brewing, Captain. Big trouble. Those Valith, not all friendly. Some of them are, ... Wrong." Ryan exchanged a worried glance with Laura. "Wrong how?" "I don't know," Kevin admitted. "But I think we're in more danger than we thought." As the three of them stood there, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The Valith might have invited them under the guise of peace, but beneath the surface, darker forces were at play. Forces that neither side fully understood yet. And as the night wore on, the humans couldn't shake the feeling that the fragile trust they'd built with the Valith was already beginning to unravel. Document Part 3 of the HFY Sci-Fi Story the morning after. Kevin's unsettling discovery brought a tense silence to the human delegation's quarters. Captain Ryan Carter paced back and forth, his boots making soft thuds against the smooth floor. Dr. Laura Bennett sat at the table, her tablet open but untouched, her mind clearly elsewhere. Lieutenant Kevin Hayes leaned against the wall, his arms crossed and his expression grim. None of them had slept well. "We need to decide what to do," Ryan said finally, breaking the heavy quiet. "If what Kevin saw is true, and I have no reason to doubt him, we're in a dangerous position." Laura nodded slowly, agreed. "But we can't just accuse the Valith outright. That would destroy any chance of diplomacy." "Then, what do you suggest?" Kevin asked, his tone sharp with frustration. "We sit here and pretend everything's fine while those ... things are out there. For all we know, they could be planning something." "No one's suggesting we ignore it," Ryan replied firmly. "But acting rashly will only make things worse. We need evidence, something concrete to back up our suspicions. Laura tapped her fingers on the table thoughtfully. What if we ask for permission to explore more of their city? Frame it as curiosity about their culture. If they refuse, or act evasive, that'll tell us something. Ryan considered this for a moment. It's risky, but it might work. Let's try it during today's meeting. Keep your guard up though, and remember, don't let them see how much we know. When the humans arrived at the council chamber later that day, the Valeth greeted them with the same polite enthusiasm as before. Their glowing forms shimmered softly, and their expressions, if such a term could apply, remained calm and welcoming. Still, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched more closely than usual. As the meeting began, Laura took the lead once again, presenting a new topic: Earth's architectural achievements. She spoke enthusiastically, using holographic projections to illustrate famous landmarks like the Eiffel Tower and the Great Wall of China. The Valeth listened intently, their colors shifting in fascination. When she finished, one of the council members tilted its head curiously. "Your creations are impressive," it hummed. "They reflect both beauty and purpose. Do you wish to learn more about our own structures?" Ryan exchanged a quick glance with Laura before replying. "Actually, yes. We'd love to explore more of your city. Your architecture is unlike anything we've ever seen, and understanding it could help strengthen our bond." The Valeth hesitated, its glow dimming slightly. For a brief moment, the room fell silent. Then another council member stepped forward, its voice smooth and melodic. "Such exploration would require careful planning. Our cities hold many sacred spaces, not meant for outsiders. It doesn't have to be extensive," Laura added quickly. "Just a small tour, enough to give us a better sense of your world." The Valeth exchanged glances among themselves, their colors flickering rapidly. Finally, the lead council member nodded. "Very well, we will arrange a guided tour tomorrow. Please respect the boundaries we set." Ryan forced a smile, though his stomach churned with unease. "Thank you. We appreciate your generosity." Back at their quarters, the humans gathered to discuss the plan. Kevin was pacing now, his earlier frustration boiling over. "A guided tour, that's useless. They'll show us exactly what they want us to see, and nothing else." "Maybe," Ryan admitted, "but it's a start. If we pay attention, we might spot inconsistencies or clues about what's really going on." Laura nodded in agreement. "Exactly. We'll need to observe carefully. Look for anything unusual, no matter how small." Kevin sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Fine. But what if we find something? What then?" Ryan's expression hardened. "That depends on what we find. If it's minor, we keep playing along. If it's major, ... double quotes, he trailed off, his jaw tightening. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." The next day, the humans met their Valeth guide outside the council chamber. It introduced itself as Sylar, its voice warm and inviting. "Follow me," it said, gesturing gracefully. "I will show you wonders beyond imagination." As they walked through the crystalline city, the humans marveled at the alien structures. Towers pulsed with vibrant light, casting colorful reflections. Across the ground, strange plants swayed gently in the breeze, their petals glowing faintly. Everything seemed alive, humming with an energy that was both beautiful and otherworldly. But despite the awe-inspiring sights, the humans remained vigilant. Kevin kept glancing around, searching for signs of danger. Laura observed every detail, her sharp eyes noting even the smallest anomalies. Ryan stayed close to Sylar, asking questions designed to test the Valeth's honesty. At one point, they passed near the darkened tower Kevin had discovered. His heart skipped a beat as he recognized it, but he forced himself to remain calm. To his surprise, Sylar didn't acknowledge it, instead steering the group toward a nearby plaza filled with intricate sculptures. "These represent our history," Sylar explained. "Each piece tells a story of unity and growth. Laura examined the sculptures closely, her brow furrowing. Unity seems important to your people, she remarked. Yet Earth has often struggled to achieve it. How do you maintain harmony? Sylar's glow brightened slightly. Through understanding and sacrifice. Every individual contributes to the greater whole. Kevin snorted under his breath, earning a warning glare from Ryan. Despite the Valith's polished answers, Kevin couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. The words sounded rehearsed, almost too perfect. As the tour continued, the humans grew increasingly uneasy. While the Valith showcased their most impressive landmarks, certain areas of the city remained conspicuously off limits. Whenever they approached these restricted zones, Sylar would redirect them smoothly, offering vague excuses about safety protocols or sacred traditions. Finally, Laura decided to push the issue. Why are some parts of your city closed to visitors? She asked innocently. Is there something dangerous there? Sylar hesitated, its glow dimming slightly. Not dangerous, merely private. These areas hold memories and artifacts best left undisturbed. Ryan studied the Valith closely, noting the subtle shift in its demeanor. Memories can be powerful, he said. Perhaps sharing them would help us understand each other better. Sylar's response was swift but guarded. Understanding takes time. Patience is key. The humans exchanged knowing looks. Whatever secrets the Valith were hiding, they weren't ready to reveal them yet. Later that evening, as the delegation returned to their quarters, Kevin voiced his frustration. They're hiding something big, Captain. You saw it too, didn't you? Ryan nodded grimly. Yes, but until we know what it is, we play along. Push too hard, and we risk losing everything. Laura stared out the window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. There's something else bothering me, she said quietly. Their emphasis on unity, it feels forced, like they're trying to prove something to themselves as much as to us. Kevin frowned. You think they're scared of us? Maybe, Laura replied. Or maybe they're scared of themselves. The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Whatever truth lay beneath the surface of Zorathia, it was clear that the humans were walking a thin line between cooperation and conflict. One wrong step could shatter the fragile peace they had worked so hard to build, and as the night wore on, none of them could shake the feeling that time was running out. Document. Part 4 of the HFY Sci-Fi story. The next morning dawned with an uneasy stillness. Captain Ryan Carter woke early, his mind racing with thoughts about the Valith and their hidden secrets. He stood by the window of their quarters, staring out at the shimmering cityscape. The crystalline towers glowed softly in the dim light, but today they seemed less inviting and more like silent sentinels guarding untold mysteries. Dr. Laura Bennett joined him a few minutes later, carrying a cup of tea. She looked tired, her usual calm demeanor replaced by a quiet tension. You're worried, she said simply, taking a sip of her drink. Ryan nodded without looking at her. Something's off. I can feel it. Every time we ask a question, they sidestep it. And that dark tower, Kevin found it's too convenient that they won't let us near it. Laura frowned thoughtfully. It's not just the tower. Their whole behavior feels rehearsed. Like they've prepared for this moment for a long time. But why would they go to such lengths unless they were hiding something big? Before Ryan could respond, Lieutenant Kevin Hayes burst into the room, his face pale and his breathing ragged. Captain, he gasped, we've got trouble. Ryan turned sharply. What is it? It's Lieutenant Collins and Dr. Meyer, Kevin said, his voice trembling slightly. They're missing. The news hit the delegation like a punch to the gut. Lieutenant Collins and Dr. Meyer had been part of the team assigned to study Zorathia's environment. They had left earlier that morning to collect samples from a nearby region, promising to return within a couple of hours. Now, several hours had passed, and there was no sign of them. Ryan immediately contacted Sylar, the the Valeth guide who had led their tours the previous day. The alien's response was swift, but unsettlingly vague. Your companions may have wandered into restricted areas, it hummed. Such actions are unwise. Restricted areas? Ryan demanded, his voice sharp. Why didn't you warn us about these places before now? Sylar's glow flickered faintly, a sign of discomfort. We assumed your kind would respect our boundaries. Clearly, we were mistaken. Ryan clenched his fists, but forced himself to stay calm. Losing his temper wouldn't help anyone. We need to find them. Where should we start looking? Sylar hesitated, its glowing orbs dimming slightly. I will accompany you, but tread carefully. Some zones are dangerous not just to outsiders, but to us as well. The search party consisted of Ryan, Laura, Kevin, and Sylar. As they moved through the city, the atmosphere grew heavier, almost suffocating. The once vibrant structures now seemed cold and lifeless, their colors muted. Strange sounds echoed. In the distance, low hums and faint screeches that sent shivers down their spines. Kevin kept scanning the area, his weapon drawn and ready. This place gives me the creeps, he muttered under his breath. Ryan shot him a warning glance. Stay focused. We're here to find our people, not pick fights. As they approached the outskirts of the city, Sylar stopped abruptly. Beyond this point lies forbidden territory, it said, its tone firm. Proceed at your own risk. Ryan stepped forward, his expression resolute. We don't have a choice. If Collins and Meyer are out there, we have to bring them back. Didn't argue further, though its glow dimmed even more. It gestured for them to follow, leading them into a desolate expanse of jagged rocks and twisted vegetation. The air smelled acrid, like burning metal, and the ground beneath their feet felt brittle and unstable. After what felt like hours of searching, they stumbled upon a disturbing sight. Discarded equipment scattered across the rocky terrain. Among the items were tools belonging to Collins and Meyer. Kevin knelt to examine them, his hands trembling as he picked up a cracked datapad. They were here, he said grimly. But something happened. Laura crouched beside him, her eyes scanning the ground. Look at these marks, she said, pointing to deep gouges in the dirt. Whatever attacked them wasn't human or Valeth. Ryan's heart sank. Keep moving. We need to find them. Deeper into the forbidden zone, the landscape grew increasingly hostile. Towering spires of black crystal jutted out of the ground like broken teeth, casting eerie shadows in the dim light. The air buzzed with static electricity, making the hairs on their necks stand on end. Suddenly, Kevin froze, raising a hand to signal the others to stop. Do you hear that? He whispered. At first there was only silence. Then faintly, they heard it, a low guttural growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Sylar's glow flared brightly, its form quivering with fear. We must leave, it urged. Now. But Ryan shook his head. Not until we find our people. As if in response, the growl grew louder, accompanied by the sound of heavy footsteps. From behind a cluster of black crystals emerged one of the creatures Kevin had encountered earlier. Its skin was cracked and oozing a viscous, greenish liquid, and its glowing orbs pulsed erratically. Behind it, two more appeared, their forms hunched and menacing. These aren't Valeth, Laura breathed, her voice barely audible. What are they? Sylar's voice trembled as it replied. Aberrations, failed experiments. They were meant to be guardians, protectors of our borders. But something went wrong. Kevin raised his weapon, aiming it squarely at the nearest creature. Failed experiments? You mean monsters? The lead creature let out a deafening roar, charging toward them with unnatural speed. Kevin fired, the bolt of energy striking it in the chest. The creature staggered but didn't fall, its momentum carrying it forward. Ryan shouted orders, and the humans formed a defensive line, firing repeatedly at the advancing horde. The fight was chaotic and brutal. The creatures moved with jerky, unpredictable motions, their attacks wild but powerful. One of them swiped at Laura, knocking her to the ground. Ryan rushed to her side, pulling her to safety as Kevin unleashed a barrage of shots. Sylar hovered nearby, emitting a high-pitched hum that seemed to disorient the creatures momentarily. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last of the aberrations collapsed, its body twitching violently before going still. The humans stood panting, their weapons smoking and their faces streaked with sweat and grime. "We need to get out of here," Ryan said hoarsely. Now, on their way back to the city, they found Collins and Myro, what was left of them. There, bodies lay crumpled against a jagged rock formation, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. Laura knelt beside them, her hands shaking as she closed their eyes. "This shouldn't have happened," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder, his own grief threatening to overwhelm him. "We'll make sure it never happens again." Sylar watched silently, its glow dim and somber. For the first time, it seemed genuinely remorseful. "We did not foresee this," it admitted. "Our mistakes have cost lives, yours and ours." Ryan turned to face the alien, his voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath the surface. "Then tell us the truth. What else are you hiding? Because if this is just the beginning, we need to know." Sylar hesitated, its glowing orbs flickering uncertainly. Finally, it spoke. "There is much you do not understand, much we ourselves do not fully grasp. But know this, the threat you face is greater than you realize, and it is not confined to this world." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication, as the humans made their way back to the city, each step weighed down by sorrow and resolve. They couldn't shake the feeling that their mission had taken a dark and irreversible turn. Whatever peace they had hoped to build with the Valith was now shattered, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The killings had begun and they feared it was only the start of something far worse. Document Part 5 of the HFY Sci-Fi Story. The return to the Valith city felt like walking into a storm. The air was thick with tension, and every step seemed heavier than the last. Captain Ryan Carter led the group, his jaw clenched tightly as he replayed the events in his mind. Behind him, Dr. Laura Bennett walked with her head bowed, her eyes red from crying over the loss of their teammates. Lieutenant Kevin Hayes brought up the rear, his weapon still drawn, his gaze darting around nervously. He didn't trust this place anymore, not after what they had seen. Sylar, the Valith guide, floated ahead silently, its glow dimmer than usual. It hadn't spoken since they left the Forbidden Zone, but its presence felt suffocating. Ryan wanted answers, and he intended to get them no matter how uncomfortable it made the alien. When they reached the council chamber, the Valith leaders were waiting. Their glowing forms shimmered softly, but there was an edge to their demeanor that hadn't been there before. One of them stepped forward, its orbs brightening slightly. "You have returned," it hummed. "What news do you bring?" Ryan stepped forward, his voice steady, despite the anger boiling inside him. "Your aberrations killed 2 of my people. 2 good people who came here in peace. We need answers, and we need them now." The Valith exchanged glances among themselves, their colors flickering rapidly. Finally, the lead council member spoke. "We grieve for your loss. It was not our intention to harm you." "Not your intention," Kevin snapped, stepping forward. "Then why didn't you warn us about those things? Why did you let us walk right into danger?" The council members' glow dimmed slightly. "We believed the restricted zones would deter you. We underestimated your curiosity and our own failures." Laura cleared her throat, her voice calm but firm. "Failures? You said those creatures were experiments. What exactly were you trying to create?" The question hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. For a moment, no one spoke. Then another council member stepped forward, its tone measured but tinged with unease. Centuries ago, our species faced threats beyond our control. To protect ourselves, we sought to enhance our abilities to create guardians capable of defending us. But the process went wrong. The subjects became unstable, aggressive. We sealed them away, hoping to contain the problem. Ryan's eyes narrowed. And you didn't think to mention any of this when we arrived, or when you invited us to explore your city. We feared your judgment, the council member admitted. Our past mistakes are painful reminders of our imperfections. We hoped to present ourselves as unified, harmonious beings. Kevin scoffed, under his breath. Harmony. Is that what you call hiding monsters in your backyard? The council members shifted uncomfortably, their colors pulsing around. It is more complicated than that, one of them said. The aberrations are only part of the issue. There are other dangers we face. Dangers we cannot confront alone. Ryan crossed his arms, his expression hardening. What kind of dangers? The Valith hesitated, exchanging nervous glances. Finally, the lead council member spoke again. There are forces at work beyond Zorathia. Forces that threaten not just us, but all life. We believed humanity might hold the key to stopping them. Laura frowned, her sharp mind working quickly. Forces, you mean something out in space? Another species? The council member nodded slowly. Yes, a species far older and more powerful than ours or yours. They see potential in your kind, but they also fear you. If provoked, they will not hesitate to destroy you. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. Why are you telling us this now? Because the time for secrets is over, the council member replied. If we are to survive, we must stand together. But trust must be earned on, rebuilt. Back at the human delegation's quarters, the mood was somber. Collins and Meyer's bodies had been placed in stasis pods, awaiting transport back to Earth. The loss weighed heavily on everyone, casting a shadow over their mission. Ryan sat alone in his room, staring at the wall as he tried to process everything that had happened. He couldn't shake the feeling that the Valith were still holding something back. Their explanation about the aberrations and the mysterious threat in space raised more questions than answers. Were they telling the truth or simply buying time? A knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was Laura. She entered without waiting for an invitation, closing the door behind her. Her face was pale, her eyes dark with worry. We can't stay here, she said bluntly. This place isn't safe for them, or for us. Ryan sighed, rubbing his temples. I know, but leaving now would mean abandoning the mission entirely. And if what the Valith said is true, if there really is some greater threat out there, we need to understand it. And if they're lying, Laura countered, what if this whole thing is a setup? Those creatures weren't just experiments. Gone wrong, they were weapons, designed to kill. Ryan nodded grimly. That thought crossed my mind too, but until we have proof, we play along, for now. Laura hesitated, then sat down across from him. There's something else bothering me, she said quietly. Their emphasis on unity, it feels forced, like they're afraid of falling apart. What if the real danger isn't out there, but within their own society? Ryan leaned back in his chair, considering her words. You think they're using this supposed external threat as an excuse to keep control? It's possible, Laura replied. Fear is a powerful motivator. If they're worried about internal dissent, they might be exaggerating the danger or even fabricating it to maintain order. Ryan frowned. Either way, we're caught in the middle. Whether the threat is real or imagined, we need to figure out where we stand, and fast. Later that evening, Kevin approached Ryan in the common area. His usual cocky demeanor was gone, replaced by a look of quiet determination. Captain, he began, there's something I need to tell you. Ryan raised an eyebrow. What is it? I've been thinking about what Siler said earlier, the part about sealing away the aberrations. I don't buy it. Those things weren't locked up, they were hunting us. Someone sent them after us. Ryan's expression darkened. You think the Valith orchestrated the attack? It's possible, Kevin admitted. They knew we were getting too close to the truth. Maybe they wanted to scare us off or worse. Ryan stood up, pacing the room. If that's true, then we're in more danger than we realized, but accusing them outright won't help. We need evidence. Kevin nodded. Agreed. That's why I'm volunteering to go back to the Forbidden Zone. There has to be something, their records, data, anything that proves what they're hiding. Ryan stopped pacing, turning to face him. Absolutely not. It's too risky. Last time nearly got you killed. But it's the only way, Kevin insisted. If we sit here and do nothing, we're playing right into their hands. At least let me try. Ryan hesitated, torn between caution and necessity. Finally, he sighed. Fine. But you're not going alone. I'll come with you. No, Kevin said firmly. You're needed here too. Keep the rest of the team safe. Let me handle this. Ryan studied him for a long moment, then nodded, reluctantly. All right. But be careful. And if things go south, don't hesitate to call for backup. Kevin gave a small, determined smile. Don't worry, Captain. I'll make sure we get the answers we need. Under the cover of darkness, Kevin slipped out of the quarters, moving quietly through the alien streets. The city was eerily silent, its crystalline towers casting faint shadows in the dim light. As he approached the outskirts, he kept low, avoiding patrols of Valith guards. His heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to stay focused. Reaching the edge of the Forbidden Zone, he paused, scanning the area for signs of movement. The jagged rocks and twisted vegetation loomed ahead, ominous and foreboding. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, disappearing into the darkness. Inside the Forbidden Zone, Kevin moved cautiously, his weapon drawn and ready. The air buzzed with static electricity, making the hairs on his neck stand on end. Every sound made him flinch. Every shadow seemed alive. After what felt like hours of searching, he found what he was looking for, a hidden entrance carved into the base of a black crystal spire. The door was sealed, but a quick scan revealed it could be overridden with enough effort. Pulling out a portable hacking device, Kevin set to work, his fingers flying over the controls. As the door slid open with a soft hiss, Kevin stepped inside, his breath catching in his throat. The chamber beyond was vast and filled with strange machinery, its surfaces covered in pulsating veins of green light. In the center of the room stood a massive console, its screen displaying rows of alien symbols. Kevin approached cautiously, pulling out a data chip to download whatever information he could find. As the transfer began, he heard a noise behind him, a faint scraping sound. Whirling around, he saw movement in the shadows. Something was coming. Backing away slowly, Kevin kept his weapon trained on the darkness. Suddenly, a figure emerged, Valith, but unlike any he'd seen before. Its skin was cracked and oozing, its glowing orbs flickering erratically. It let out a guttural growl, advancing toward him with jerky, unnatural movements. Kevin fired, the bolt striking the creature in the chest. It staggered but didn't fall, its momentum carrying it forward. Realizing he was outnumbered, Kevin turned and ran, clutching the data chip tightly. Behind him, the creature let out a deafening roar, followed by the sound of pursuit.